Have you ever invested in some learning to help you grow your yoga business, only to stall a week or so, or maybe a month or so into that training? You know the scenario? You start out all motivated. This is a course that's really going to help you to build your yoga business, and you're finding the material is actually really interesting and quite useful. But then somehow you stall. A few days go by, and those days turn into a week and another week until you've left it for so long, you quietly bury the information in some dark corner of your computer, thinking that you'll come back to it when you're ready. Except somehow that time never comes. If that's you, sometimes you'll find the questioning creeps in. Was this such a good idea? Maybe I'm not ready for this. There's so much competition out there. The economy is challenging right now. It's just not the right time for me right now. All of these things go through our minds. And sometimes there's a sense of guilt when we stall. I get that. I really do. One thing psychology taught me about human behavior is that we hate to be seen as inconsistent. So when we don't do what we said we were going to do, even to ourselves, somehow that just doesn't make us feel good. We end up feeling guilty, but what guilt does is it makes us feel so bad that our brains remember that feeling and talk us out of even attempting it altogether. The story that we end up telling ourselves is, well, maybe where we are isn't all that bad after all. Maybe I'm just not cut out to do this. I have seen this phenomenon in me, and I see it in some of the yoga teachers who come on my Business Foundation course. There are telltale signs that I look out for. For example, sudden tail-off in logins into the course platform. No questions or comments in the community section that's deliberately there to help them to feel part of the community, to show that they're thinking about or engaging with the resources that are all there to support them. Not attending any of the bi-weekly coach calls for a week or more. No record of completion of actions that would actually help that yoga teacher to move forward. For me, any of those signs are red flags. I designed that course to be as helpful as possible, and for me, it matters that those who invest in the program succeed in the same way that students who come to me succeed, whatever their vision, whatever their goals are. And the truth is, I know that most often the main reasons we falter or we give up are that we start to question our ability. Phrases such as, I'm not sure I'm ready yet, or it feels a bit scary putting myself out there, come up a lot. We compare ourselves to others, and we feel that everyone else is further down the path than we are. We overthink things, and we don't ask for help. Now, I'd like to tackle this phenomenon head on, and I'd like to start with a quote that I've come back to again and again over the years, especially when business feels hard, slow, or uncertain. Here's a quote I'd like you to really think about. The thing about making it big and doing it fast in business is that invariably the first steps will be small and slow, which oddly, for too many, is reason not to take them. Boy, does that land, doesn't it? Honestly, there have been times building my own businesses that it's felt like wading through treacle. There have been times it's felt overwhelming and I have no idea where to start. I'm staring at a sheet of blank paper or a computer screen thinking, I'm just not ready yet. But with no idea, no clear idea of what ready actually looks like, except that it's not me. The truth is, over the last 2 decades, starting at 50, I've built 2 sustainable businesses. Not massive, but sustainable businesses. One that grew reasonably quickly but ran me into the ground, and one that's now grown with me, aligned, grounded, and built with intention. That first time round, I had no idea how important things like positioning, niching, or systems were. I disliked and I was no good at marketing and numbers. I was passionate, but totally unprepared for the reality of building a sustainable income from my coaching skills. I found myself thinking I wasn't ready. I found myself thinking others have more skills than me. I found myself thinking it's all too hard. So I invested in a mentor to get better at this business stuff. And in terms of financially, I began to see success, building a successful coaching business that I had at one time thought was impossible for me. But in that first business, I paid the price. Burnout, exhaustion, and a business that began to feel a bit like a runaway train. The second time, I was determined I was going to build differently. More balance, more breadth, and actually more aligned with being a yoga teacher, which was the business I wanted to build. I scaled more intentionally to build a business that worked for me as well as for my students. It happened much more quickly that second time round because I'd built the foundational skills the first time round. And then, 5 successful years in, I decided I wanted to take some of what I did online and start working with yoga teachers. Cue the beginnings of a third element of business. And that's where this quote hit me all over again. Let me remind you of that quote. The thing about making it big and doing it fast in business is that invariably the first steps will be small and slow, which oddly, for too many, is reason not to take them. And there I was, suddenly, back in those early steps of over 2 decades ago, building infrastructure, laying foundations, spending money before seeing a return, moving slowly, and not always seeing the results yet, because whilst still teaching yoga, teaching online is a whole different ballgame, requiring different knowledge, different infrastructure, stuff I just simply didn't have. But the difference was, I knew this time that slow does not mean stuck, not unless I made it so. And here I'm mindful of an Eleanor Roosevelt quote, "Failure is not the falling down, it's the staying down." You see, small steps don't mean you're failing, and building something real, if you're starting from scratch, is never going to be instant. If any of this resonates for you, here are 3 things I'd really like you to consider and take to heart that you might find helpful. First, what so many yoga teachers get wrong. They fall for the shiny ads claiming that they can make 6 figures easily online, and they fall for what I call the glorification of fast success. They don't realize that there are hidden costs to skipping what I call foundational steps. See, here's the truth. If you don't understand some real and timeless and, dare I say it, sometimes quite boring but absolutely critical principles behind building a successful business, you will struggle far longer if you make it at all. If you've followed me for any length of time, you'll have heard me say that's like trying to run before you can walk, or landing a new job and expecting to be CEO next week. It simply ain't going to happen. The second key thing I want you to think about is what I call the rebuild and reality check. Understand that you need to build from the ground up. Just think about this for a second. You can't build any strong structure of any type without strong foundations. And the bigger the building you're planning on building, the stronger the foundations are going to have to be. And it's those foundations that seem to take forever, don't they? You're still not seeing anything that even looks like a building. But once those foundations are in place, Have you ever noticed that from that point, things suddenly seem to start to take shape so much quicker? Building the foundations of a sustainable business is just the same. And if you don't have those foundations in place, and you realize you don't, then you do need to be willing to know that you're gonna have to get through that stage first. The fancy stuff will come later. You have to start from where you are. And here's where I'd like to share a joke that my very first mentor shared with me. It's an Irish joke, and it's about a couple on holiday in Ireland, and they're stuck in some backwater country lanes where they've lost direction and they're trying to get to Cork. But they've ended up lost, and they stop and ask a passing pedestrian for directions. And that pedestrian says, "Well, I wouldn't start from here." The truth is, you can only start from where you are. No other place. There is no point comparing yourself to others. There is no point wishing it were different. So if you don't have a roadmap, if you're starting your yoga teacher career with no prior business skills or understanding of marketing, there is no shortcut. You will not successfully grow a sustainable business, and you're almost certainly destined never to reach your dream destination. Putting those foundations in place is going to take more time. But once you have them in place, once you start to build momentum, it's a bit like a car going from standing. It's a bit like that building that you see growing. The most energy is required to get up to speed. But once you're there, it becomes easier. I've seen yoga teachers by the hundreds flock to invest thousands in the hype around building a six-figure plus yoga business online, who haven't even proven that they can attract and keep a following offline yet. As I alluded to earlier, the story that going online is easy is an illusion, even with those foundations in place. So if this is you, just know you can only start from where you are. You do need some foundational skills and some foundational understanding. Learn those first. Build from there. Which leads to my third and final key. What small and slow actually looks like. First, it's about building infrastructure and resilience so that your business runs smoothly and doesn't take over your whole life. Remember, this is about building something that works for you and that doesn't run you into the ground. A business that has a number of parts. A good business has systems and processes that make your job easier. Think of it a bit like a jigsaw. Getting those in place is going to take time in the beginning and maybe a bit of financial investment, but boy will you be grateful for them as you begin to fill your classes and grow your reputation. Second, it's about mentally accepting that it's going to feel slow in the beginning and uncertain. There'll be setbacks. You will sometimes feel nervous, uncertain. Question yourself. It's going to require trust and courage. And if you haven't listened to podcast 47 and any of this is resonating for you, I strongly suggest you listen to that podcast too, as that deals with the fact that we stop investing in our dreams often because we're afraid to back ourselves. There is no magic to building a sustainable yoga business, but you are not excluded from the possibility. And unless you talk yourself out of it, or you allow others to, be wary of that one too. Maybe that's a topic for another podcast. Let me leave you with this. You're a yoga teacher, right? If you have students in your class who struggle with some of the poses, but there's no medical reason why they can't do that pose, how would you handle that? Would you tell all those that you feel don't have the necessary foundational skills to go home because it's a waste of time them even trying? Or would you, even worse, ignore their struggle and just focus on the ones who can, leaving the others further behind, feeling ashamed or frustrated? Or would you take them all gently on a journey to learn the basics, gaining confidence and belief in themselves so that they gently stretch their own comfort zones? My bet is you'd be encouraging rather than discouraging. My bet is that you'd explain that sometimes, for some of the more challenging peak poses, there is a process, and that everyone in that class is going to have a different starting point. My bet is, like me, you find yourself frequently letting students know that yoga is not a competitive sport, to listen to their bodies, to be aware of their starting point and to work from there. They can see the vision of what they're striving for, but they don't have to get it tomorrow, or even ever. It's the journey that matters. It's who they become over the weeks and months of working with you that matters. There are so many parallels to what we learn on the mat. Building your yoga business is no different. It's a journey. You have to start from where you're at. You simply cannot start anywhere else. So here's my final thoughts. If you choose to shrink from the journey, all I can say is that that is the time that you ask yourself what, for me, is one of the most powerful coaching questions in the world. And it's this: what is the consequence if I don't do this? If I give up now? Really think about that. Seriously, sliding doors time. 12 months from now, and you didn't bother with this journey. What are you saying to yourself? What are you feeling? 12 months from now, you've worked through that gremlin barrier. What are you saying to yourself? What are you feeling? Give that some serious thought. And please, replace flow with sustainable in your mind. Replace behind with becoming. And if you need help taking those steps and believing in who you are becoming as you do, how about starting small right now? Sign up for my Pathway to Profit as a part-time yoga teacher 5-day challenge and kickstart. It's ready when you are. You can literally sign up right now and make a start. None of this having to wait for a week or a fortnight or whenever the thing starts. No, you can start right now. Plus, you could take advantage of not just getting some help getting started, but an opportunity for talking through your dream on one of our bi-weekly coach calls. Maybe I'll catch you there. Namaste.